Okay, ladies and gentlemen, come dive into the open minds where you can broaden your perspectives, expand your horizons, and open your eyes to a reality never thought possible. Just remember, once you open that door, there's no going back. I am your host, Robbie Diesel, and this is the Open Mind Show. And tonight's episode is Paranormal Investigators with my guests, Wendy and Stephanie. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
So glad to have you guys. For anybody out there watching who doesn't know, they're on the road at a convention right now. So thank you guys for joining on such extreme circumstances. What convention are you guys at?
It's called Unity in Duluth, Minnesota.
Okay. So what goes on at something like that?
Well, it's just a lot of like-minded people. Like I know there's several other paranormal teams, like local paranormal teams actually, and like they have some special guests. Like Steve from Ghost Hunters is here. Dustin from Ghost Hunters is here. There's some other. Those are the two I really know.
Yeah, Nani, you want to step in? She's taking photos with all of them. So.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Yep.
There's Chad Lindbergh, right?
Yep.
And Destination Fear.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and then also the one that's the what's his name? Malcolm, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember.
Oh, the Explicit Ghost or something like that. She was just talking about him.
So this is like a serious circuit of paranormal investigators that you guys are a part of right now.
Yep. Yeah. And right now, we're representing North Dakota because we're actually the only booth from North Dakota at this convention. Yeah, represent.
Sorry. All right, there you go. See, I'm a California boy, but I've lived out here for about 7 years, so I consider it my home now.
Yeah.
So. Yeah. But so anyways, you guys are paranormal investigators. What exactly is a paranormal investigator?
So basically what we go in, I know lots of people like the term ghost hunter, which we actually don't go by, because to me, a ghost hunter hunts ghosts.
Right.
When we investigate, we try to investigate if something is actually happening or something is unexplained, or we investigate. Like we go through and the property that we're at, and we try to do it as scientifically as possible. And if we can't explain something, we don't automatically say, oh, this place is haunted. We just say it's unexplained. You could have some kind of haunting going on. And there's different kinds of hauntings as well. But we try to debunk, try to disprove everything that the person that is bringing us in says.
Yeah, and ghost hunters are mainly out there to try and find evidence and just find proof. We actually go about it trying to help those both living and those that have passed. So we're actually trying to make the world a better place and make it more aware that there's stuff out there that you can't explain. So.
Right. Wow, that's amazing. So how long have you guys been specifically doing paranormal investigations, whether together or by yourselves? What's the experience at right now?
We've been pinned, or Paranormal Investigators of North Dakota, since 2017. Between the two of us, separately, we have about 20 years experience between the two of us.
Wow.
Yep.
Wow. So when you guys are going into these investigations, as you explained, you guys are going in as skeptics, right?
Yes.
Yep.
Right. So it's coming in with the basis of there's nothing here, but we're going to scientifically take the approach in case there is.
Right.
Yep.
And I'm guessing that that's kind of for if you're at a home, it's the homeowner's ease too.
Yep.
Yep. And a lot of times when homeowners call us, a lot of times they just want validation that they're not, going crazy.
Yeah.
Right.
Sometimes it could just be, I never want to say it's in their head ever, because, everyone has different feelings and stuff. Like we try to go in and explain why things are happening that they think is paranormal. Other times sometimes there is something going on. So yeah, we try to go in and Yes, make them at ease, and then they can decide if there is something there. We can show them how to set boundaries, so maybe like they don't bother, like whoever or whatever spirit is there doesn't bother them anymore.
Especially at bed, when they're in bed, they don't want some man hanging over their face, like, get out of my house. So they can kind of set those intentions and boundaries, say, you're welcome to hang out in the kitchen, make a sandwich, but I'm going to bed. So we can kind of teach them some guidelines of working with spirits. So
Yep.
Right. So is that like that's like normal as far as the spirit realm is like setting boundaries, huh?
Yep.
Does that usually work if you guys do detect a spirit in there?
Usually, as long as the homeowner or business owner really sets the boundary and means it.
Yeah.
Because if they like set the boundary, but then they're like, oh, like I want this one to go and leave me alone, but this one can stay, or then it's not going to work.
Yeah, because if you leave that door open just a crack, they're going to continually come in. Even you want the one bad guys to go away, but it just leaves that door open, and then more are going to come in. So definitely set that intention and that boundary that only those of the highest love and light are welcome. Those who aren't need to please leave. So
wow, yeah, I like that. So do you guys like do mostly homes, or have you gone to like properties that are uninhabited, or like actual items that have had a suspicious activity? Or
we've been to several businesses, museums, art galleries, actually, and we have come across a few items at different locations that definitely have more activity than other locations. So the James Memorial Art Museum in actually Williston, we were doing a sweep of the children's classroom, and there was these little figurines on the shelf, and every time we'd go by them, we'd get a really high spike, a really high reading of an EMF spike. So we were definitely moving them around the room and researching and like doing more sweeps with equipment stuff on it, and they would just continually spike. And something like a little figurine of a lady isn't going to have an electromagnetic field spike because there's no wires, there's no battery, there's not electricity coming from it. So there's definitely something making that spike. So
wow. And that's on an item. That's crazy.
Yeah.
So walk me through. You said you use what is it, a EMP? Is that what you said? EMF. Okay. So kind of walk me through like what your guys' steps are if you get a call and somebody says, I think there's paranormal activity at my house. What's your guys' process?
Well, most of the time we try and contact them via like a FaceTime, so we can kind of get a feel for what they're looking for from us. If they want us to come in and do an investigation, or if they just want us to come in and do a clearing of the energy and stuff. Once we kind of set those boundaries and talk to our paranormal team, the board and stuff, and see if it's an investigation that we feel that we should pursue, then we'll set up a date with them. We'll go into the home or the business, and we'll do just kind of a sweep of the energy of the building with the EMF detector to kind of get a baseline reading. And then we'll set up our equipment, and then we'll normally leave for about a half an hour and then come back, and then we'll start the investigation. Investigations normally run about 10:30 at night to roughly 2:30 in the morning.
Okay.
Depending on how active it is.
Yes.
I mean, we've been to places and we'll stay till 4. So
what's the reasoning for that time?
Usually, like I know everyone says like the witching hour is about 3 a.m.
Mm-hmm.
But we haven't really found that. Usually, like once the energy, like you can feel the energy in the air kind of die down, and it's like, okay, well, we're not feeling anything anymore. We're not getting any evidence. So we're gonna call it a night. But if we're constantly like picking up on like different EMF readings, or being touched, or hearing noises, or just something that's active, then we'll usually stay as long as it goes. So
and the spirit and the energy are just like we are. They end up wearing down, they get tired, so then they need to kind of set themselves aside for a while, and then they build their energy back up, and then they're able to recommunicate and stuff with us. So
yep.
Wow. So do you guys are talking about energy a lot. Obviously you guys have tools, but when you're going into certain places or encountering certain items or museums or whatever, is it a sense that you guys get to if there is something that's awry?
Yeah, I feel like Wendy and I, and actually almost everyone on our full team, is intuitive in some way. Like Wendy is actually more. She can pick up more on like people, like the clothing that they wear, the kind of life that they led, stuff like that. And then I can sense more of like the land or the buildings. So like, and everyone brings a little bit something different to the table. I mean, like we can pick up on the same things sometimes, but sometimes I'm like, oh my gosh, like I feel like there's someone peeking out this window as we pull up, and she's like, oh, I don't feel that. But then if we go inside, she's like, oh my gosh, like this is the room where that window is. She's like, I'm totally picking up on somebody, you know.
Wow.
So yeah.
That's cool.
And not everybody, well, I shouldn't say not, I said that backwards. Everybody actually has like that intuitiveness. It's just whether if you act on it or not and work with it. I know Wendy's always been intuitive, very much so throughout her whole life. As I was growing up, I was able to pick up on certain things as well, but I was one of those kids that was like, oh, you know, it's just noises in the house, or, you know, like your imaginary friend, or, you know, what have you. Not that my parents disregarded it at all, but I kind of lost it as I grew up. And so then when I especially when I met Wendy, I kind of got that back, I feel like. So
well, and as she stated, everybody's born with the ability, and so many times children, just like animals, they pick up on things better, you know, more. And if you're noticing, like she said, like as a child, you have an imaginary friend or whatever, your families and your parents are like, quit using your imagination, whatever, you just eventually shut it down.
Right.
So a lot of that happens. So
well, and life happens too.
Yeah.
I mean, like not everybody is going to pursue a hobby of investigating. So I mean,
right. Well, I've had a few guests on the show, and I feel like energy reading and that intuitiveness gets brought up a lot. So I think I agree that everybody has that intuitiveness, but I also agree that just the way our society is constructed and stuff, that even if you don't have like a trauma or anything like that, like you're kind of desensitized up to a certain age, and some people can retain that and other people kind of lose it based on, you know, their life, or they may not recognize what it is, you know, so that they just, like you said, they disregard it because they don't think anything of it.
right.
But then there's people like you guys who recognize for what it is, learn about it or study it. Or in your case, Stephanie, you meet somebody like Wendy and she brings it back and reveals that you actually have something more powerful. So I think that's very cool. And I think we're definitely onto something with that, because you're not the first guest on here or the first person I've talked to who talks about this. So that's very cool. I know for myself, I'm a big energy guy. I'm not really religious anymore. I was raised Catholic, but I'm huge on energy and the intuitiveness, and I do pick up vibes from certain people and certain places and things. So that there's definitely something to that. So what do you, so paranormal is a big like door. It's a big window. There's a lot of stuff. It's not just ghosts like you guys said in the beginning. So have you guys dealt with anything like besides ghosts, like UFOs, Bigfoot, stuff like that? Or is it kind of just mainly like spirits?
Go ahead.
That's our main focus. We have had one client that we did an investigation for. They've seen some cryptic type figures off one of the highways and stuff. We never got a chance to go and locate it, but there's definitely activity in the area. So,
right. I have a UFO book. It's actually all on just Montana sightings, and I'm about halfway through it, but it's really interesting. And that's like, you know, where North Dakota, Montana are neck and neck. So, and I think a lot of it has to do with like the air bases and the military installations too. So I always kind of find that odd that they seem to have more sightings and stuff around those installations.
Yeah, there was actually some evidence that was collected by Minot Air Force Base. I don't remember if it was the 1970s, but there actually was some documentation that they were tracing something that was flying over the Air Force Base.
No, it was in the 1960s.
Was it in the 60s?
Excuse me. Yeah, it was the 1960s, and there was actually a book written about it as well. I can't remember. I know someone told me about it because they knew the guy. But I know that there is a book about it, and he was some kind of lieutenant or something like that in the Air Force on the Minot Air Force Base, and like they wanted to keep it like hush hush or something like that. So
that usually is the MO of the military.
Yeah.
So have you guys? What do you guys? You guys have heard of the pyramid in North Dakota, right?
The pyramid, that's up north, right?
Correct. I've never been to it, but yeah, I just read up on it. I don't think it has anything to do with like ancient Egyptians or anything like that. I was just curious if you've ever
Possibly.
heard of it. Yeah, right.
Yeah.
So anyways, so you guys are dealing with spirits. So how do you define have you ever, because I guess there would be ghosts, demons, spirits, entities. What's the difference there between all those?
Well, in my opinion, a ghost and a spirit are pretty much the same thing.
Okay.
Demons are a whole nother ball game.
Okay.
Whole nother ball game. But like energies, ghosts, spirits, like it's to me, like they're one and the same. But there's one major difference between how it's presented. So there's two different kinds of hauntings. There's intelligent, where the spirit or energy or ghost will interact with you. And then there's residual, where something is, we're getting into quantum physics now, where something is like stamped.
Dive in.
Where like something that happens over and over and over, it's stamped into like the space time and physics or whatever. So like if you see something walk into a wall where there used to be a doorway, like that would be a residual.
Wow.
Something happening over and over and over, like at the Wendy experienced at the Tobby Museum in downtown Minot. It was a bank at one time, and she experienced an apparition, full body apparition, walk down the steps and go into where the vault used to be. And
wow.
Weird. So I mean, those are the two main types. We haven't really dealt with any demons or anything like that yet.
Yeah.
Thank goodness.
Right.
But yeah, to me, like ghost, spirit, energy, like to me, it's all energy. So.
What have you had anything like attached to you guys when you're going to do these investigations?
I personally haven't, but we've had an investigator who was definitely overtaken by a spirit.
Really?
Definitely, yep.
Yeah.
And I do Reiki, Stephanie as well. And it took
a while.
Yeah, quite some time to kind of really work and clear the energy that was attached to him, and definitely work. I'd say probably 45 minutes before he started kind of feeling himself again. And
so are we talking like a what is the movie? I don't know why I'm drawing a blank right now. Like a possession? Like it was a full possession?
I wouldn't necessarily say it was a possession, but he almost overtook his demeanor, like even the way he physically looked had changed. Personality wise, it had kind of changed. So I don't know if it would definitely be considered a possession, because when you talk possessions, that's more like demons.
Right.
And exorcism, this is more just stepping into the body of another person, kind of.
Like when we were taking pictures of him, and he's a petite guy, but like we took some pictures of him, and like his shoulders brought in, and like it looked.
Wow.
Yeah, it was.
And I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think like the possession, like you just said, is correlated to demons. I think that's kind of like a stigma in the ghost world, because to me it sounds like if this guy's physical attributes changed, his attitude changed, his demeanor, his look, that sounds like you're possessed.
Well, there could be a difference there too between demons and maybe there's an energy that was so strong that wanted to be heard.
Right.
So that's because I've actually one of the earlier paranormal teams I was actually on before Pinned. One of my friends, she was investigating in Bismarck, and she was down. There's some tunnels down in Bismarck as well. She said she felt something go through her, and like she pretty much passed out, and like this person or this energy's life flashed before her eyes.
Wow.
Yeah. So and like apparently she didn't really pass out. She said she felt like she passed out, but like other people on the team actually had to like shake her awake, like she was possessed or something overtook her. So that was Megan. So there are different kinds of possessions, just not necessarily like maybe he just wanted to let somebody know something and that happened in his life.
Yeah, it sounds kind of like some of them may just be using us as a vessel, like you said, to just be like, hey, I need some help, or hey, I'm here, or whatever. So I could definitely see how people would throw the possession word and take it straight to demons and not just what you guys described. So when you're going in, you identify an energy or a spirit. What options do you give people that are there? Because I know you said you wanted to help people. So what's kind of the role when that comes in and it's identified?
Like options that we want to give the living.
Well, mean? To help the homeowners and
Okay.
So we ask them if they want us to come and do a clearing. And that's just removing some of the residual energy that's in there. We are physically made up of energy. The world is energy. And, if she's in a great mood and I'm in a bad mood, we happen to interact and our energy is going to shift because we're exposing it to each other. So a lot of that energy, just like the residual energy of a spirit, you're going to leave that. If you live in an apartment, you have some addiction problems, you're always depressed, that negative energy and that depression is going to stay in that area. So we'll go in using Reiki. We use liquid sage and we burn sage as well. We use a singing bowl to kind of clear that energy as well. And we just do a whole kind of practice that we go in physically and remove all the elements that we possibly can in several different means. So
Right. So for people who may not know, what is Reiki exactly?
So it's an ancient Japanese technique of energy healing, basically. The practitioner taps into universal energy, and then we just use that with a gentle placing of our hands on a client, or we can actually physically move the energy in a room with our hands and kind of remove it. So.
And it's not religious. Like some people think that it has to do with religion. It's being a vessel for the energy of whatever higher power that you believe in. So
Yes. So I mean, it kind of sounds like you guys almost do like some social work as far as like helping people, like you mentioned, like drug addictions or people that are going through depression and stuff like that. Do you think in your experiences that people's depression or their happenings in life, their shortcomings and stuff like that, attracts something that was already there, or could it attract something that may not have been there but they let in?
Possibly both.
Okay.
We've experienced a few people that have had some addiction issues, and because they've experienced these things, it weakens your energy field, right? Because we all have that energy field, that aura around us. And if you have disease or addiction or anything, depression, it's going to open up cracks in your energy field, right? So if you're like positive and everything's flowing good, you're healthy, your energy field is out there to protect you. But if you have depression and stuff, there's these openings, these negative blockages in your system, and it can open up for other things to kind of attach to you.
Right. And sometimes, like, I know depression is very serious.
Yes.
Dealing with it myself at a young age, and you as well, I know. Sometimes you just can't help it. But like as you learn to work on how to fix it, not necessarily. Depression is such a touchy subject, I know. But like when someone gets to that point where they can get out of it, then it becomes way better and much easier.
Right.
And I've worked with several clients one-on-one too with Reiki. And if you haven't, if you need a session, touch out to us definitely. And if you have some financial problems, I'm willing to help out in any way I can. But I've seen a huge shift in people's energy with anxiety, depressive issues and stuff. After like even one session, they feel so much lighter. A client just recently came in and she said that she was able to breathe for the first time in probably 2 months.
Wow.
So it does make a huge shift in your energy and releases some of the stuff that's been there.
So you're kind of taking bad energy out with Reiki and replacing it with good energy.
Yep.
Wow. That's amazing. So have you guys, you mentioned a team. How big is your guys' team?
We have 12 members, right? Because there's 5.
I think it's 9 right now. We have 5.
9.
Yes.
Okay, 9. Yes.
Her and I are co-founders, of course, and then we have Brian, who's another co-founder. We're lead investigators, and then we have 3 other board members. And then
it's 6.
Yep.
And then there's another couple.
Yep.
That will help out. No, there's 10. We have a medium.
Oh wow.
That he only comes and helps out when he can, because of course everyone has full-time jobs. And then we have another person that she's only been on 1 or 2, but she's slowly like starting to get the hang of it. So yeah, that's actually 10.
10.
Yep.
Okay. So now what does a medium do exactly?
He connects with the energy that's there. We've had some great validating evidence with him. He's an evidential medium. So he goes in there with tangible evidence, like blatantly, like your Uncle Bob had this happen to him, and will bring up like memories or like dreams that you have had. And it's just amazing. His name's Michael Christopher. He's got a Facebook page and website out there. So definitely.
Yeah.
An amazing.
One of the residences that we went to, he was naming all kinds of like very specific things off, and it actually made the person we were trying to help break down, because
really
so spot on. Yep.
Wow. That's amazing. So now is the rest of your guys' team, are they all like investigators too, or like practicing investigators, or does everybody have like their own little niche?
So, well, like there's us.
Right.
And then
we have a tech guy.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. He's on the board. So our board consists of what is your title? Investigation crew. So there's Nani, who is also here with us, and then her husband John also. Mm-hmm. And then we have, what is the other title that we said? They're
all investigators.
Yeah, they're all investigators.
Okay. All right.
And then everybody brings different intuition, picks up on different things. And
right.
Very but like the board members, they've been with us for at least over a year.
Yeah.
Like all of them have. So, and then like the ones that are just starting, like if we need more help, then we'll be like, hey, like let's. Like we're going on a couple big investigations this summer, so like we're needing everybody that we can get. Well, in our group, I should say.
So like if we're doing like a private home or something, we don't need to bring all 10 members of us. We'll bring like the board.
Oh, okay. There
Sometimes
you go.
It's just me and Wendy.
Yeah.
Right. So what's the board for? Like what is that?
Help us make decisions. So if there's like an investigation that we're looking at getting, we'll discuss it amongst ourselves, and then we'll have a board with the 5 people. If half and half are voting yes and no, we have that odd number to kind of push us in one direction or another. So they're helping make decisions and helping find investigations and kind of stuff.
Yep.
Right. And I'm sure that helps with the big team, that it feels like everybody's making the decision together and not just one person saying, you're going to do what I say.
Yep.
Yeah.
So that's really cool.
Sometimes like sometimes we're just so passive too. We're just like,
we're Pisces, or we're water signs.
Yeah, we're water signs. So we're like, well, what do you want to do? I don't know. What do you want to do? And so like, it actually helps us.
Yeah.
I mean, ultimately we do usually make the final decision, but we're just so like, well, what does everybody else want to do? And So it really helps us too.
For the best whole of the whole team.
Yeah.
You know, that's what our goal is. And then our clients.
And I think that's great and really humble you guys, because I'm sure the way you guys make it sound like Pinned is your guys' baby. And I know it's kind of like this show with me, like this is my baby. If I had somebody interfere or something with it, I might feel some type of way. But I think that's very cool that you guys have a board so everybody feels comfortable with making a decision and moving forward. So have you guys ever had like your own experiences and like private, like with stuff happening in places that you've lived or?
Absolutely.
Yes.
And want to go?
Yeah, indulge me in that.
Where should I start?
Exactly.
30 years ago.
How about your guys' each one's most like insane extreme case?
So when I was growing up, so my grandfather actually, like I grew up on a tiny farm south of Bismarck, and my grandfather actually built our house after he and my grandmother were married. And he actually passed away in the house as well. And I was constantly hearing footsteps and feeling I was being watched, and I would see stuff out of the corner of my eye, and I thought I was just seeing things. And then me and my brother actually got to talking, and it turns out he was experiencing the exact same things. Well, one night, so my bedroom was right off of our kitchen, and then down the hallway was the bathroom, and then my brother's room was right off the living room. So like the bathroom was in between our rooms, and the kitchen door that goes outside was like one of those light hollow doors. And it was probably midnight, 1 o'clock in the morning, and I heard that door slam shut so hard that both me and my brother walked out of our rooms. We looked at each other, and my brother just said, "Just go back to bed. Just go back to bed."
Wow.
And I'm like, no. So I went and slept in his room. I was probably 6 or 7. But man, there was always stuff happening in that house. People walking around upstairs. There were some rooms in the upstairs that I wouldn't even dare go into just because I felt like there was something there. I was always hearing people or something knocking on the basement door.
Really?
Yeah. And it was, and some of it could have been, a little kid's imagination, but I know for a fact that that door slammed that night and I could hear footsteps. But growing up, that was probably my most, because it was really intense that night.
You said your grandpa passed away in that house, but the way you just described that stuff, was it like bad energy that you were feeling when you're going in a room, or was it just like very heavy?
No, it was just heavy. He had a couple strokes in his lifetime, and his demeanor changed. So I've actually never met him. Like, he passed away before I was born, and I was told that he was kind of ornery, or not really mean, but like his demeanor changed after he had his stroke. So I don't know.
So like looking back on that now, knowing what you know, and you obviously know what was going on back then, but like back then, did you have any idea, or were you just guys freaked out? Or
I guess I've always believed in ghosts, even as a child, like growing up. I don't know where I got it from, to be honest. I have no idea. My mom used to watch Unsolved Mysteries all the time. Maybe that's where I got it. I don't know, but I just knew that there was something there that I couldn't see.
Yeah.
Even as a very small child, like 3-4 years old. So.
Right.
Wendy has some good ones.
I don't know where to start. As I could possibly remember, I've had family members, like my grandparents, pass away during the night, and they'd come to my bedside to let me know that they were passing and moving on. I'd get a knock on my bedroom door the next morning. My mom would open the door, and she'd look at me, and she'd like, "Oh, you already know, don't you?" And would then tell her that, well, grandma so-and-so came to my bed and said that she was going to be moving on. So that happened several times as a small child. But the home that we live in currently, we lived in California for a few years. My husband's retired Air Force. 2 nights after we moved back to North Dakota, moved into our new house, super excited. 2 nights, I was laying in bed and I had a very gruff male come over the side of my bed and said, "This is my house." And I was like, okay, that's fine. You're welcome to stay here. But when I'm in bed sleeping, you need to stay out of our bedroom. So I said, you're more than welcome to stay downstairs on lower levels or whatever. And he's kind of those boundaries that we talked about early. He's stuck to those boundaries. It's a split level house, so there's 4 different levels in the house.
Right.
He had a workshop area, but you can see his shadow walking back and forth between his workshop and the bathroom.
Wow.
There's other spirits in the house now that are interacting with some of the kids' toys. The ones that like you touch or the kids will roll or whatever. I'll have that chiming and talking to me in the middle of the night. I'll be in the living room trying to do homework or watching TV or whatever, and I'll start randomly going off. Just crazy stuff like that. Our son moved back into our house for a while, and he was actually sleeping in my art studio, which was the man's workshop. And my son sleeps like death, like an earthquake would not wake him up. And we called the male entity that's in the house, Mr. Walter. And he was awoken during the middle of the night one night with a man grabbing his arm and shaking him physically awake, and very foggy-eyed over. He's like, yeah, I am. It's not time for me to get up, kind of blowing us up, thinking that maybe he slept through his alarms or something. And my husband was trying to wake him up. The next morning, he approaches his dad, and he's like, hey, Dad, why are you trying to wake me up? And my husband's, I call him my muggle because he's not a huge believer in the paranormal or anything. And he's like, I didn't come wake you up. And of course, my husband's like, oh my God. So he came to me, he's like, so Britton had this thing happen. I'm like, well, it was Mr. Walter. But he's been very active in the house just in the last probably month or so. I've recorded that toy going off probably 12 or more times within a 3 to 4 hour time period.
Yeah, she'll we'll be on the phone talking about something, and I'll be able to hear these toys go off in the background even.
Yep.
So
really,
and
yep.
Debunking as we do, I'll go into the room that this toy's at, and I'll move the ground, jump on the ground to try and see if I can get it to shift. Check the vents and everything. There's nothing physically that would make this go off other than it being physically touched in some way.
So with all the experience you have, does that some of that stuff still startle you at first today?
I think if you hear a noise in the dark, of course you're going to be a little on edge, but oh, what's that? But then that investigator, we're like, ooh, what's that? Let's go check it out.
And then we run towards it. So
let's see what that is. Let's play.
Right. So have you done any investigating on who this spirit or entity is in your house?
Actually, we've been getting mail from a Mr. Walter.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it was just a random, all of a sudden we started getting that toy going off pretty steadily in the last month, and we got something in the mail for Dairy Queen for a Mr. Walter. So we're definitely was a past resident.
Right. But you never asked the realtor or somebody about previous owners? No, that doesn't really concern you.
No, I just tell him to leave me alone, and he listens. If I got distracted, trying to do homework or whatever, it'll go off. Telling me okay, ADHD girl, get focused again. I'm like, all right, I hear you. So I try and refocus, but then he's good. But
yeah.
Have you ever told him that he got mail or read it to him?
No, I haven't. I need to do that. Maybe go set it in his old workshop.
There you go.
He'll be like, Dairy Queen coupons, yeah.
Right. Now take me.
Yep.
So how do you think that entities or spirits get attached to objects?
Well, they're using it all the time, right? So say there's a lady who looks in a mirror and she brushes her hair every night.
Right.
She does this repetitively for 50 years, that same routine. So that mirror or that brush that she's using is going to have that energy that's kind of left on them. So
yeah, it's that residual I talked about earlier.
Right.
Yeah. Sometimes objects can have a special meaning to somebody. And if you think about it also, like everything you touch leaves a little bit of your energy there as well. So there's lots of different reasons.
Okay, so it's kind of like somebody has a lucky coin, but what about like you said, if there's a house where the door's gone, how does that work, or where does that come in?
Maybe it could be that that's where they live. So when I was talking about that I was talking more so about like residual energy, where it's something repetitive. Maybe they live there, or maybe they were a frequent visitor, and that's just something that happened.
So it's like a recording.
Yeah.
Okay.
That just keeps repeating over and over again.
Yep.
So what she was talking about, the Tabi Museum, we kind of figured that the guy that I seen coming down the stairs, he was as solid as you and I. I was teaching a class, and I had 2 students that parents said that they were going to be picking them up a little bit after our closed hour. So there should have been nobody other than these parents coming in the door. I seen the man coming down the stairwell, stop at the landing, look towards me. And I was like, okay, girls, one of your parents are here. They got up, got their coats, they walked to the door. We seen the man shift off to the right. I'm like, wait, girls, I don't know who this is. It's definitely not your parents, because he's walking away from me. So I'm physically chasing this man. Like, excuse me, sir, we are closed. Is there something I can help you with? He goes around the next corner, and I'm like, okay. I go chasing him, and he's gone. These 2 girls, they're grade school age, probably 6 or 7. They seen him as well. With that repetitive, it was probably the banker going to check the night deposit box. That same routine down those stairs every night, going into that safe.
Same thing with like where her Reiki studio is. That used to be part of the bank, and she'll hear high heels clip clop down the hallway. There's nobody there.
Yeah.
Right. So where do cold spots or room temperature change come in? What's the deal with that?
So when a spirit is trying to manifest itself, or if like they're getting ready to interact with you, they'll have to like draw energy from the space around it. So then since they're drawing that energy is also heat.
Right.
It can be. So when they draw that energy to try to interact, then it leaves a cold spot. Because they're drawing that heat away.
So I take it that you guys have like temperature readings and stuff as well.
Yep. Actually on our EMF detector as well, like there's a temperature gauge.
Yeah.
So one time we were investigating Minot State University in Hartnett Hall, where like the art where the like the theater and the art classes take place. There is actually a fire in that building. And Wendy's son Britton, who is also on the board, took the EMF detector, and he was going around and stuff, and the temperature spiked up to was
high enough that it stopped. It like froze and locked up the system, and that has never happened ever. And I didn't tell any of them that there was a fire in Hartnett Hall. Every once in a while, they'd be like, I smell smoke, and I'm like, okay, I don't know what that is. Blowing it off, just waiting to see if anything else would come up. And it was like 600 and some degrees.
Like 668 degrees, I think. We actually had to look up how hot fire is, like in the middle of a fire, and it was like 650 to 690. So that would have been perfect, like falling right into that area.
So this is a building that held residual energy from not a human, but a fire.
Yep.
Well, fire's energy too, right?
Yep.
Right. And I totally agree, but that's just crazy to think like an actual building held that energy instead of it being like a person. You know, I can understand like a person being trapped in a building or something like that, but that almost seems like the building had its own energy.
Yeah, we've been in several buildings that have been like that as well.
Even the land, depending on what goes on in the land, like if there's an earthquake or something, that energy from that earthquake can also kind of keep that residual energy too.
Right, because you got like magnetic fields, shifting plates and all that. So that goes hand in hand with the energy again. So what made you guys decide to choose paranormal investigating?
Because we've been around it all of our lives, and it's just something that we want to do to help others.
Yep.
So it's like an enthusiasm and a passion.
Mhm.
Yes, definitely.
Right on.
Helping those living and past.
Yep.
Nice. So do you think like the media or movies or Hollywood portray paranormal like excessively, extremely, or do you think they do a good job of portraying it?
It depends on which TV shows that you want. Now, a lot of the paranormal teams and stuff that are broadcast and stuff have definitely opened up the realm of acceptance of it to
Right.
like regular society and stuff, but definitely has put kind of negative turn on it too, because there are a lot of teams out there that
It's all for
fake
show.
evidence and
Yep.
you know
Right.
try and make get the ratings and stuff and
Entertainment.
yes, exactly.
Definitely.
Yeah, I know when I've watched some of those shows like the Ghost Hunters and stuff like that, some of the episodes are just like, all right, but you know,
Yeah.
I always think it's cool with people like you guys that go in as skeptics and you're trying to like disprove it. You know what I mean? I feel like
Yeah.
that's genuine, that's legitimate. You know, somebody is panicking and you're like, calm down, let's just go through the steps first, you know, instead
Yep.
of just being like, no, ghost, we're getting readings. You know, like, yeah.
You have a demon in that corner.
Yeah. Right. So where does have you guys ever dealt with like, because I know Native Americans and stuff like that have a lot of like ghost stories and stuff like that too. So where does that kind of tie in? Have you guys ever dealt with any stuff like that, like tribal land or Native Americans and stuff like that?
They're very protective, so
Mhm.
we haven't dealt a whole lot of that. So
And we have a great respect for that as
yes,
well.
absolutely.
As we should. Yeah, me too.
Yes.
That's very cool. Other than Sage and you said Reiki and you had your EMF and stuff, what other tools do you guys use if there is any?
We have we have a thermal camera. We have a couple full spectrum cameras, which is it allows us to see things in different spectrums of light that our eyes can't see. We have night vision cameras.
The Ovulus.
The Ovulus, which is like a spirit box where it goes through the different radio frequencies, except with the Ovulus, it takes the energy that's around it and it will spit out words.
Oh, wow.
Sometimes it will even spit out words in an accent, which is kind of weird. It's actually kind of cool. We've been looking at these things all day too.
Yeah, I know. It's like
oh, we have super scientific names for some things like blinkies, which are they're like a little black box, and you put a battery in them there's like a copper wire. You attach a battery to it, and then it will detect static electricity, and then it'll turn on a light. So it makes light. So they're blinkies.
Yeah.
Which
is basically like a mini REM pod, except it doesn't chime.
Yep. Which we also have.
Yep. We have REM pod.
The Bing Bongs.
The Bing Bongs, but you know, like the cheesy doorbell things that you can get for like at like your storefront or whatever.
Right.
But man, they work amazing. Mm-hmm. So, example of an investigation that we did at the Urban
Winery.
The basement there, very, very active. It was about 2:30 at night. We had one of the Bing Bongs on one of the door entrances. So there's some stairs that come down to where it used to be a pool hall. We had one of the guys with the EMF detector. I was right at the edge of the door. The door was open and one of the Bing Bongs was on there. And then the rest of the team was on the next room on the outer edge. So we were nowhere near where the chime thing was. And we would get a spike coming down the door, and then it would pass me, and then the doorbell thing would go off. So we would get a spike and the doorbell thing would go off. And we probably had it 5 or 6 times. It was just like there was a group of people coming in one right after another, late after hours, other bars are closed, and they were just coming in running or playing pool late at night or something. But yeah, it was very intense that night.
Yeah, it was, it was really cool. Let's see.
One thing we do when we have the availability to at different locations, if they let us go live, we do actually go live stream on Facebook, so you can actually interact with our investigations and stuff. So if we're like hanging out in the dark and we're not picking up on anything, but if you see a shadow or you hear something, we'll go and we'll try and figure out what's going on too. So it's kind of fun to kind of tag along with us.
Yeah, that sounds cool.
Virtually.
What's your guys' Facebook page? So if anybody's interested, they can do that.
It's at pinned PIND Minot.
Yep.
On Facebook.
Yep.
Or you can just look for Paranormal Investigators of North Dakota.
There you go. So have you ever had anybody come on the team and you guys went to a very active place and they just were like, screw this, I'm done?
No,
No.
but we definitely have had a few people like run out of the room or experience something that brings them to tears.
Right.
So, and a lot of times, what?
I ran out of the room once.
well, out of the building once, and then out of a location down a hallway once. Comic book store.
That we're not even going to get into that situation. That wasn't me.
Well, you co-screamed and ran, so
whatever. Not even.
All right, look what I started. My bad.
But that was a pretty intense night.
Mm-hmm.
The original comic book store, the basement, it's like a parking garage. And it was around that same time, probably about 2:30 at night. 4 of us girls that were on the team were in the basement. The guys are upstairs watching the monitors and everything. And we kept feeling and hearing things. We were going live, so one of the people who were watching the live was like, hey, why don't you guys play some 1920s music? And we're like, all right, cool. And tell you what, the energy shifted so intensely. The girls were getting their hair stroked. A couple of the girls were getting their bra strapped. One of the girls actually got their bra unhooked.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, they were definitely wanting to interact with the ladies that night.
Interact.
Right. God, what kind of 1920s music were you guys playing?
I know, right?
I think the Andrews Sisters is what we started to play. Yeah.
So, what's one of the most active? I don't know if haunting is the right word, but what is one of the most haunted or active places you guys have ever been to?
The Billings County Courthouse Museum in Medora. Definitely.
What's the background on that?
So it was the original. I don't remember what year Medora was founded, but if you know the story of Medora, like the Marquis de Moore from France came in and he opened up a slaughterhouse basically, and he found that having cattle out here in the Badlands in North Dakota, and slaughtering the cows and shipping the beef back out east was less expensive. And they invented these special refrigerated cars and everything so they could ship it back east. Well, he came, he founded Medora, he named the town after his wife. Teddy Roosevelt also lived there for a while. But the Billings County Courthouse Museum was the first jail cell. And so on the main floor there's 2 wings where the sheriff and the deputies would live and stuff, and then they had jail cells in the back, and then on the second floor was the courthouse. And it's just think of how many people went through there, how much energy was stored there, and even all the objects that are in the museum as well. It's just it's really hard to explain even
So have you guys
during the day, the curator Bambi, she has things like falling off of shelves. There's a chain in one room that just starts swinging on its own. There is a non-functioning vent in there. Us going in there trying to debunk it, of course, we're checking vents and floorboards. It's like cement, concrete. It's like an old jail cell. So there's nothing that can physically make this chain swing. The chain swings back and forth. You'll hear voices and footsteps and arguing and just...
clanking on the jail cells, like someone's holding a tin cup and going around. There was one point where, so upstairs in the courthouse, there's always a room off to the side where the judge resides and gets dressed and does all his law stuff or whatever. But there was a mannequin in that room with the judge's robe, and we would do different stuff trying to interact with the energies there and stuff. And the face on this mannequin physically changed.
Yeah. As the energy shifted and stuff throughout the night. Well, because we're the co-founders and we kind of lead the investigations, the male energies, of course, back in the day, women were supposed to be at home barefoot and pregnant in the kitchen, doing those simple chores. And when we're telling the guys, hey, this equipment goes here and you guys need to do this or whatever, kind of directing, it made the male energies a little more aggressive, because we're like, well, how dare these women push these guys around?
Really?
Definitely. His energy shifted once we started kind of leading things out. Yeah, and that mannequin definitely.
Yeah, that was one of the only times that I ever actually ran out of a building, ever, because so next to the judges' chambers, there's kind of like a back room, and you almost get the feeling of someone being held there, and these people are trying to make this prisoner confess.
Yeah.
And if you don't confess, we're going to beat the crap out of you. Like, it was a very heavy negative aggression.
Yeah, definitely.
And me and actually two of the guys were in that room, and it's actually a video on our Facebook as well. I hear and there's just 2 or 3 steps that go down into this room, and all of a sudden I hear the stairs creak, and I was like, what was that? And then one of the guys, Brian, he's like, oh, that was me, and he did what he was doing, and then it made the stairs creak. I'm like, okay, fine. And so we're going around or whatever, and I'm almost up against a wall, and all of a sudden you hear it in the video, this aggressive scratching noise, and I turn around, and all of a sudden I just had this feeling of absolute dread, just absolute terror, and I'm like, I have to get out of here. And I ran down the stairs, and I saw Bambi. She was at her computer, and I'm like, I have to go get some fresh air. And I went outside. And then after that point, I was like, okay, let's go. Let's go. Let's do this,
Yeah, Bambi and I were sitting at her desk watching the live feed, and we hadn't really caught up to that because it was like a 2-second lag. So you heard thun, 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 go, the steps coming down the stairs, and I turn around, and Stephanie is as white as a ghost, seriously, and the expression on her face. We actually had somebody say, nice acting. And we're like, no, that was definitely Stephanie doesn't act like that during investigations. And it was concerning enough that I stepped outside and checked on her. But
I was absolutely terrified. I know it was just scratching, but man,
I mean, I would be scared. At half of the stuff you're talking about, I'd probably be spooked.
Well, and it depends on the energy that you're feeling at the time too, because you can hear scratching behind you. You're like, oh, maybe it's more of a whimsical, hey, get your attention. But when it's an aggression,
right?
You definitely feel that it's that intense vibrational,
like an attacking energy.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah,
my heart's racing just thinking about it, to be honest.
Wow. So, but once that happened, you kind of overcame the initial, and you were just ready to dive in.
Yep. It actually kind of made me upset, because I felt like it was trying to find a weakness or make me appear weak or scared or something. I can't exactly explain it, but I was, and I don't like to provoke. We are not those type of investigators. We do not provoke, but I was like, okay, we want to go, let's throw hands,
right.
But after that, nothing really happened all that much. I think I caught a couple things on the thermal camera, but nothing of very big significance. But
so it sounded like he was like a provoker, or the energy was the provoker. So do you think that, we were talking about depression with people, do you think that a lot of these spirits or these energies may be depressed too?
Possibility. Yeah. We were just at a house just about a week ago, and excuse me, split level house. Upstairs is an apartment, main level is an apartment, then downstairs in the basement is another apartment. And we definitely felt a difference in the energy in the different levels of the house, because different people living in different parts of the house,
right.
And the lady had mentioned that somebody had lived in the upper level. We had definitely felt a intense heaviness in that upper level, and come to find out the person had lived there the last time actually had some addiction issues and some depression, anxiety and stuff. So it definitely leaves a lot of impact on the place that you're at. So
Mm. Do you feel like, because I mean, I know you guys have a medium on your team, and my understanding of mediums is kind of like the same thing. They're like a middle man from the spirit realm to the physical realm. But it kind of sounds like you guys touch on that a little bit too. Do you think that like these spirits stick around because they had a hard time letting go or accepting their fate or what happened to them, or how does that work? Like what makes an energy like stick around?
well, some of them do, of course. You know, some people have the theory that they have things that they're unfinished, right?
Yep.
They
Mm.
died tragically, but energy, just like we are here, you have that free will of kind of moving from location to location, checking up on your loved ones or going to your favorite place that you used to live. So energy can shift. Working at the Tabby Museum for as long as I had to, there's always activity in the museum: footsteps, residual stuff, shadows. I don't know how many kids that I have had in the museum that I've taught that would come up the stairs and I'm like, what's up in the permanent collection room? And that's one of the places that we had some of the most intense experiences at the Tabby as well. So yeah.
Do you think all museums hold like some paranormal activity because there's so many artifacts and things that are from all over, from various happenings? Do you think that's a
I
common
think
thing in
maybe
museums?
not necessarily paranormal activity, but some kind of energy.
Yep.
Like a few years ago, I went to Las Vegas and I got to experience the Titanic Museum there.
Mm.
And there's so many different items that were brought to this, and like you can just feel the sadness. But they actually have a great big piece of the ship in one of the rooms, and when I walked into that room, I just broke down. And there was no reason for me to, because it was such a tragedy. But if you think about it, museums have so many different little pieces,
Right.
that even like the tiniest piece could have been super important to somebody.
Yeah.
So
Right.
maybe, and that's all that's left of them, you know? So I think that in all museums, there's some kind of paranormal activity. Maybe some people won't pick up on it. Like we might not even pick up on it, but I think that, all museums have that.
Right. Even if it's just like you said, like a little feeling that you get by walking by an item or something, not necessarily anything interactive.
Right.
Where can folks look you up and reach you at? I know you said you guys had a website. What's that website?
Don't have a website, but we have an Instagram and then Facebook. And then you can also email us.
Yep.
Okay.
And our emails are on our Facebook page, actually.
Okay. And what is that again?
It's at, like the @ sign, PIND Minot, or you can just type in the search bar Paranormal Investigators of North Dakota.
Okay. I do remember it now. Do you guys just do investigations in North Dakota, or is it in the country?
We'll go pretty much anywhere as long as we're able to.
Yeah.
Okay.
And we don't charge for the investigations or clearings. Like I had mentioned, we're here to help those living and those who have passed. So
right.
But we do have donations if somebody feels that they want to donate some money for gas or whatever, if we're traveling a couple hours or whatever. We do appreciate that, but we completely don't.
And if someone gets a hold of us from another state, we will usually try to research for a paranormal team in their area, try to let them know what's going on and see if they can help them, especially since sometimes it's a pretty long trek for us. So
right.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, I feel like anywhere when I talk to people back home from California, they're like, 2 hours was a road trip in California. Now here's like 5 hours is like nothing. It's like a 30-minute drive. So
yeah, we drove 8 hours today for this convention.
Yeah. So. And that's normal out here. That's like whatever.
Yep.
But I want to thank you guys for coming on. Honestly, I look forward to having you guys back on in the future if this continues on, talk more experiences and stuff like that. Maybe get some of your other team members or guests on too to talk. So Again, I appreciate you guys being on the road and checking in with me. And for anybody out there viewing or watching, you have the information now. If you're going through anything, tap in with them. If you said you didn't charge, so when you're reaching out to other states and stuff like that, are you looking for other services that don't charge as well, or?
We try to,
Yeah.
and then we make sure that the teams are going about the investigations like we do. We're not going to send somebody to somebody who's going to fabricate and provoke the energies that are there. We're looking for the same type of team to help like we do.
Right. So you kind of like interview them and grade them as if
Yep.
you would approach the investigation. Very cool. So you heard it here first. If you ever need any help with any paranormal investigation in North Dakota, PIND, PIND, Paranormal Investigators, North Dakota. Thank you again, Wendy and Stephanie. Next week's episode, I have a financial advisor on, so stay tuned for that. And I look forward to seeing you guys soon.
Thank you so much.
Thank
for
you.
inviting us.